Ayo, what up, everybody? Welcome back to the Generational Beef Podcast. I'm your host, Tristan Terrell, as well as my dad,
Noel Terrell, Generational Beef.
the Beef.
Maybe next week I'll completely get my voice back.
There we go. All right, so been a week since we've last seen you, and a lot has happened. Some for the unfortunate. Fortunately for us, we've had a few days to cope, and it doesn't feel any better, but at least it's not as fresh and raw, so we can give some real good feedback and reactions other than just the pure emotion that we were feeling the last few days. And for the most part, throat still hurts a little bit, but my voice is back. I feel good, mostly. And Dad is still recovering, but we're getting there.
Yeah, so let's get into it. So
yeah, let's get into it.
First of all, flowers where flowers are due.
For
right?
sure. I mean, that's where it's got to start and end. Absolutely.
Look, the Spurs are a great basketball team. In this series, they were the better basketball team.
Absolutely.
I do think, and this isn't an excuse, it's just a fact. I do think not having Dub or Mitchell was really crazy or big for us on those nights where no one else could get it going. And obviously Shea, until game 7, was not as efficient as we're used to seeing, but I think that was as a result of the defense that was being played on him. I think the Spurs learned a lot in that series. I think they learned how to play physical. So I want to give them all that credit. I want to also give credit to Wemby. He's a great player. He's their best player, right? Not necessarily in that series, I don't think. But hold on. Let me explain.
You're about to say some really dumb stuff.
I am absolutely not, because what I'm about to say is 100% fact.
Okay.
Wemby shut down the lane.
He did a lot more than that, but
I'm not saying that, although as big as he is, and the rebounding that his rebounding in the series was not good except for game 1. That's inexcusable for a guy like him. That's just a fact. He had 2 games.
He had a couple
one with 4,
not great performances. Yeah.
And he had 1 with 6, right? So
yeah, sure.
When you look at what Vassell and Castle and those guys were doing, and Fox in game 7, he was some fire, right? There were a lot of guys. Now, does that open up because of Wemby? Yes. But I think more importantly than anything, and we talked about this going into the series, and we talked about the one game the Thunder did win during the regular season. What was frustrating to me is Wemby did close down the lane by his very presence, but we didn't even test it. We just took that and said, well, there's nothing we can do about it.
It wouldn't have worked if we tried.
It doesn't, but we didn't even try to put him in positions to get into foul trouble until game 7.
I agree that we probably should have been more aggressive, but it wouldn't have worked if we tried.
That's tough to say, right? He's
not a theoretical defender. It's not hypothetical. He is elite.
I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is he's not going to block every damn shot.
Okay, but that's the problem is you talk about blocked shots. It's not blocked shots. It's affected shots.
Hold on. What I am telling you is make him prove it. We did not make him do that.
I agree to that statement, but what I'm saying is he would have proved it.
Especially on those nights where we couldn't touch a 3.
Agreed.
I would rather you go into the lane 7 times and take 7 contested shots and maybe not make them, but that's a much higher percentage shot than it would have been at the 3-point line that night.
I don't know that a contested Wemby paint shot is a higher percentage shot than a wide open 3.
I don't know. Ask Hart in game 6.
Sure. When we're on, but my point is that if our touch was off from there, our touch probably isn't going to get better just by getting closer to Wemby.
You're taking this as a slight on Wemby. I'm not saying it that way. I'm saying
I think you do slight Wemby a lot.
No, I don't. What I am saying is we didn't make him prove it in this series.
And I agree to that statement. But what I'm telling you is he would have proved it.
Maybe. I'm not saying he wouldn't have. But don't bail him out. We bailed him out. We didn't make him do it. Right? And especially when the strength of our game is paint points. That is our team. And we let him take that away without ever putting pressure on him.
I disagree that the strength of our team is paint points. I think that the strength of Shea, Dub, and AJ Mitchell is paint points and or mid-range off of a drive, right? And then the strength for everybody else when they're on is the defense collapsing on those guys and then them kicking it out for outside looks, which still
Fine.
happened for the record. But my point being
I
is
know, but
that
it wasn't. But there was
no,
no real threat of a shot.
but
Like
my
Mitchell kept,
hold on,
like
but
McCain kept driving down there on the baseline and coming back out the other side.
yes, because
Like we
that's
weren't
my
actually going to shoot.
but that's my point.
Hold
My
on,
point.
one second.
Hold on.
One second. No,
Hold on.
let me. I didn't even finish what
But
I'm trying to say.
well, but
Hold
I
on.
was already in a thought right there. What I'm
So
saying
was I.
is, that Shea was still attacking the rim. Shea didn't take as many shots in the paint as he normally does, but he was still attacking down there and collapsing the defense. He was still getting up mid-range shots. My point being is that the other two dudes in the offense that would be doing that were both out. So that's why it looked like that. The other guys are never attacking the rim anyways. So,
But here's the thing. Think about the one play in this series where McCain bodied Wemby and made the shot.
I mean, yeah, and it was one play, and it was a
I
great
know,
play.
but we should have made him do that constantly. If he blocks it or affects the shot, fine. He's going to get himself into foul trouble. He did in Game 7, right? And so we didn't put pressure on him. I'm not saying he wouldn't have risen to the occasion, because the other thing I'll say about Wemby, I wish Chet had his heart. Like
Wemby's got it. Wemby's got it.
It's too early to say this, but this is what it reminds me of for the first time in a long time. He reminds me of watching Kobe and Michael in the playoffs. I will not be denied. Now, in this series, so I will say that I love his competitive spirit. I love it. I love to see a guy that fired up and that cares that much. Because Chet just looked like he was going to cry the whole damn game, right?
Yeah.
So I love that about Wemby, and that is going to be the reason for a lot of wins. The same way it was for Kobe, and the same way it was for Michael. Skill aside, when you have that kind of heart,
LeBron.
different.
He went to 8 consecutive NBA finals, and you want to act like he didn't will his team and do whatever he needed to do to win games? And don't give me the East was weak. Don't. Stop. He went to the finals 8 consecutive times. 8.
It's impressive. He also lost most of them, but that's not the point.
Against super teams.
Look, I know you never watched really the other guys play live.
I mean, I watched Kobe a lot.
You even have to admit right now with Wemby, it's different than LeBron.
No, it's not.
Different.
No, it's
yes,
not.
It is.
No,
100% it is.
They both have that drive and they both have that will to win. You're right.
I'm not
he
saying
is
LeBron
on that level with LeBron. Yes.
But when Wemby needs to, he'll take a game over.
So does LeBron.
LeBron's gonna kick it to the corner, right? Like you're missing my point here. I'm complimenting Wemby, and you won't even let me do that. I would take his competitive spirit in any one of my the only one person on our team I would even come close to him is Caruso. So, and I'm not saying Shea doesn't. Obviously, I know Shea cares. I think Chet cares.
You think Shea doesn't have the competitive spirit?
No, I know he does. But there is a different level of competitive spirit. The only two guys that what I saw out of Wemby in this series that I can even completely come close to comparing it to is Michael and Kobe. Those guys hated you when they were on the court. They don't care who you are. They don't care what this does to your career. I'm going to destroy you. None of our players have that. That's just a fact. Wemby has it. Wemby hates everyone out there.
Agreed.
Russell had it, just didn't have all the skill with it at times, right? Russell hated everybody out there too. And I don't mean it, actual hate, but you know what I'm saying. So that's something I really appreciate about Wemby. That spirit alone will be the result of win. It will result in wins all by itself, right? Because you could see, and he's a real leader. Like they listen to him when he comes over there, and he's what, 19?
Oh yeah, no. So what?
And he's what, 19, 18?
I mean, that's insane. He's been in the league for 3 years. He's 22.
Well, it doesn't feel like that, but anyway, he's young. This is his first playoffs.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take anything away from them. I don't want to make excuses for the Thunder. Guys didn't step up on a nightly basis. Shea did everything he could. If we had won Game 7, I think, I know you disagree with this. I think if we had won Game 7, going into Game 7, Caruso would have been the MVP of the series for me. But Shea's performance would have changed that completely in Game 7.
Sure.
Shea was Shea in Game 7,
Sure.
right? Efficiency was there. The points were there. Shea was Shea in Game 7 for really the first time since maybe early in that Phoenix series, because he was inefficient in that Lakers series too. But look, hats off to him. They were the better team. It definitely hurt not having Mitchell and Dub, and Chet was a
No,
ghost.
yeah, for sure. I will say that Victor Wembanyama is absolutely phenomenal, and I would like to. The one positive I can take from this, considering that now over the last several months, all of my thoughts in terms of the sporting world have been logged on the internet publicly, right? As unfortunate as it is to see my team lose, as unfortunate it is to not be able to go parade around the city because we won it. I will take my victory lap, one singular victory lap, in the what if hypothetical I've been giving all year long, right? What if? And there were two things that I have said all year were the most crucial pieces to whether or not we were going to go back to back, whether or not we were going to compete in the playoffs. The first of which, looking from our team's perspective, was injury. So I'm not making an excuse, right? Kind of like you said, right? First of all, I find it unlikely, but first of all, Dub and AJ could have played, and we still could have lost Game 7. That it is a possibility, right? Just like
if they were at full strength, I know.
Well, first of all, they were never going to be at full strength. But even if they had played, what I'm saying is, I can't sit here and say that if Tyrese Halliburton finishes Game 7, I still think we win, and then also conversely say that them two being out are the only reason we lost. Again, I do believe we would have won had they played, but I can't sit here and say definitively because the Spurs still could have won.
The other credit that has to be given to the Spurs.
Hold on. However, the one thing I've been saying all year is that health has to matter. And I wasn't concerned because last year we were super banged up and super unhealthy in the regular season. Didn't matter. We won 68 games, and then all within reason, Dub had his wrist injury throughout the playoffs. We just didn't know till the end, right? But within reason, we're relatively healthy the entire playoffs. So I was thinking, okay, we're just being ultra conservative because we've been here, done that. We still won 64 games. Let's go parade them out, right? And Dub tried 3 different times to get into this playoffs, and all 3 times re-injured himself, and it was bad. And to the point where it did cost us in the end. And so it's not an excuse from the standpoint from, like I said, we could have lost anyways. But the biggest reason it's not an excuse is because it is an actual flaw and an actual problem at this point, where it's like we can talk about the what if, but the what if may never be reality. Like there is a world, and I don't know, whatever, there's a lot of time left in all these guys' careers, but there is a world where what happened last year, where they all came together and were all healthy at one time in the playoffs, never happens again, because this is a very injury-riddled group, right? So my point being, outside of Shea, right? Caruso has a lot of injuries. Hart has had not as many as most of the guys, but he's had a couple since he's been on the roster. Obviously,
we were second in the league to games missed to injury.
Right. Obviously, Chet and Dub both have had major, massive injuries in their careers. And AJ missed. He played like 30 games last year as a rookie and then missed basically the entire playoff run. And this year played like 60-something games and was a much bigger part of the team, but then still missed a good amount of the playoff run, or at least the important part of the playoff run. Right. And so my point being is that all of these guys actually have massive injury concerns, so it could just be a roster construction flaw at this point that needs to be addressed by Sam Presti with some sort of move, in the sense of
not talking about the offseason yet.
No, I know we're not. But what I'm saying is that was the biggest thing I said going into this year, or throughout this whole year, is the thing that can catch up to us is injuries, and it did. Right? It's not flawed play necessarily. It was injury.
Oh, it's that too.
No, I mean, there was definitely flawed play, but a lot of it, I believe, was as a result of injury. And for the most part, we still battled through it anyway, still got to 7 games. But that was the thing. The other thing, the real victory lap for me here, is I just said the what if hypothetical. The one big thing, other than injury, even if we're fully healthy, that can kill us, the one thing that could happen is, I said, what if Victor Wembanyama comes into this playoffs and is just the best player in the world? And guess what? Victor Wembanyama is the best player in the world. I mean, if you want to base it on pure impact, if you want to base it on pure talent, if you want to base it on everything, right? I don't feel that I am being reactionary and I am being recency biased in saying that he is the best player in the world. He definitely outperformed outside of game 7, in which case he won, right? But outside of game 7, he outperformed Shea in most games in the series.
Not in 2 of those games for sure, and not game 7, so that's 3 of them already.
No, I would say that
In a game where he has 4 rebounds and 6 rebounds, he's not outperforming anyone. That's inexcusable. That's
it's
inexcusable.
not excusable, but to say that he's not outperforming another guy that also has a poor game, I mean, in game 4, they won, right? And that was the game he had 6 rebounds, right? Like, they won that game.
All right, but here's the part you're not talking about.
And Shea didn't play the last quarter and a half in that game, right? So
here's the part you're not talking about. And this is important. You're talking about these games where, like in like game 7, he's outplayed by Shea, but he won. And these other games where he didn't play great, but they won.
Disagree.
Okay. Oh, I haven't finished. I haven't said anything yet.
I don't think he got outplayed by Shea. I think they both played phenomenal games in game 7.
Game 7, fine. Whatever. What he scored, 20? 25?
Like 25, also had like
but you're missing
rebounds,
a very key part. You're missing a very key part to that win.
Okay.
Every time we got close or took the lead, his teammates hit massive shots.
So
all game. You're acting like he was the only reason, and it's not true.
No. I didn't say they're the only reason. They won 62 games this year. They had another.
Patel and Fox were on fire in game 7.
They won 62
Patel
games.
Was on fire the entire damn series.
They won 62 games this year, right? And Victor Wembanyama missed 18 of those, right? So they had another all-star in De'Aaron Fox, and he's probably their 4th best player on the team at this point. And if you want to base it on overall impact and performance in the conference finals, maybe 5th, because you could even talk about Julian Champagnie in the games that he had, like stupid.
He had huge games.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'm not. They're obviously a massively talented roster, and this is in no way just Victor Wembanyama carrying. But
well, you can't say that when a couple of the games were just not good.
That's what I just said. I just said
his best game was game 1.
Absolutely. And they won it, and it was a massive game, and it kind of set the tone for
that. But it took that to win in double overtime.
But I guess my point is that kind of goes to the opposite of what you just said, in that, like, nobody else on the team showed up in that game, and he carried them in that game. And if he doesn't do that in that game, right, then they go down 3-0, and there's zero chance they win this series.
But also, if he doesn't miss if he misses a logo 3, it's over in regulation, and we win game 1.
Agreed. My point is he hit that shot because he's that guy.
But he could have gotten much closer. My whole point was, and we've talked about this in football, basketball, it doesn't matter. When you make a stupid play, it doesn't matter if it works.
It wasn't a stupid play. He hit the shot.
It's like saying going for it on 4th and 12 on your own 30 in the first quarter and you make it. It was a good decision. It was still a stupid decision. It just
nobody makes that decision. So those are not comparable.
You're missing the point. In that case, they had time and there was a better shot to take. Yes, he made it. It doesn't mean it was the right play.
It's called momentum. It's called momentum.
Fine. It doesn't make it the right play.
It was the right play, and it went in. My point being,
he made it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it was a smart idea.
Because he's him.
If he misses it, they lose.
Yes. And guess what? He didn't. So
I get it.
My point being, these are the reasons that he is at this point the best player in the world. Pure impact. And you want to talk about the other side of the ball too, right? Like, yes, his box score numbers were not incredible in game 7, but his impact and value goes so far beyond that, and just the defensive ability and everything that we like completely throws off the entire team in a matchup when he's playing. Like, it was incredible what he has done. And I can't go back on what I said. I said going into this playoffs, I said I don't believe it's going to happen, but if they find a way to make the finals, to win the finals, anything like that, I said I will crown Victor Wembanyama the best player in the world. And you know what? I think he is. I think he just is, right? And for what it's worth, this is not reactionary recency bias, because going into the playoffs, I said he's the 3rd best player in the world because he hasn't proven it yet, and the other 2 guys ahead of him have. Well, guess what? Now he's proven it. And he provides so much more impact because, like we said, defensive side of the ball, you want to talk about Jokic and you want to say that he's a negative defender. And to the most part, I agree with you, kind of. I think that he gets overhated on defense, but I don't think that he's a good defender by any stretch, right? Whereas Victor Wembanyama is literally one of the best we've ever seen, right? And so I think that when you talk about, like, yes, he's had some subpar games, and yes, game 3 was a costly one, right? But at the end of the day, He put together more good games than bad, and he put together, more importantly, more good games than Shea did in the series, and they won.
I disagree with that he had more good games than Shea.
I think that he had many more good games than Shea. I
Let's
think
even
that
just look at Game 7. He was their leading scorer with 22.
Okay.
But he was 22 in 7 rebounds.
So?
Champagny was 20 and 6.
So?
Castle had 6 rebounds. Fox had 5 rebounds. Harper had 7 rebounds.
So what? But my point being is that sometimes...
That's his job.
Okay, kind of, but his biggest job is to stop the other team from scoring, which he does phenomenally well. And sometimes...
But again,
no.
we allow him just to do it by proxy.
No, sometimes when you're playing defense on a shot, you're out of position to get a board, and you're relying on your other guys that got you out of position in the first place to go back and help you out and get the board.
There were times that he shot and missed a 3 and just started going the other direction. He wasn't even trying to get those boards. That's all I'm saying. I'm not ready
on offense, maybe, but that's because he's getting back on defense.
Because he took a stupid shot. But
no, not a stupid shot. Just because it doesn't go in doesn't make it stupid.
They won. I already said I said he was great. I love his competitive spirit. I don't know why you have such this
no, but my point is the guy. But my point, okay, so Chet Holmgren is the second best defensive player in the league right now, right?
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
We'll talk about that when we talk about the offseason.
Chet Holmgren is the second best defensive player in the league right now. He doesn't average
the most rebounds. Put him on Wemby?
Because his value is better in other places.
No, it's not. He's not.
Yes, it is. Giannis doesn't guard the best offensive player on the other team either. But he,
you know why? Hold on. You can't get away with that. Why?
Because he does everything else, and he plays.
Because he's their best offensive player, and you don't want to waste his energy on defense.
Agreed.
Chet's not the fourth best offensive player.
Well, I disagree with that statement.
He averaged 15 in the playoffs.
So my point
I can name 4 players or 5 players that averaged more than he did.
I don't think
on our roster without Dub. It is.
That's definitely not true. There were not 4 players on our roster that averaged more points per game in the playoffs than him. That's not true.
He didn't even average 15.
Okay, but my point is, first of all, there's.
Oh, let me put it this way: I guarantee he was last place outside of Dort in points per game for the guys that played 30 minutes.
I mean, that might be true, but that's because that's only like 4 guys, right? So like,
you're saying he's not the 5th best player on offense on the team. The stats would say differently.
I disagree. The stats don't say differently.
I'm done talking about it.
Anyways,
let's move on
my point being is that Chet Holmgren is the second best defensive player in the league right now, and he doesn't average the most rebounds on his team either, right? Like rebound, there's more to defense.
But he plays with another 7-footer.
My point is that Victor Wembanyama is focused on playing defense, and so sometimes that pulls him away from the rim, and he trusts in his guys.
He had 20 rebounds in game 1.
I know.
That's what he should be doing.
No. But the other part of that is that was because in that game we were putting Caruso and Dub on him on defense, and so he had like almost half of his boards were offensive. He didn't get offensive boards later in the series because we were putting Hartenstein on him, right? So then he gets the defense.
So who's a better defender? You think Chet could have kept him to those rebound numbers? No. He would have pushed around.
It's
even Wemby can push him around.
It's different, but I think that
without another 40 pounds is useless.
Even Chet would have held him to less rebounds than he had in game 1, right? Like, would he get more rebounds over Chet than Isaiah Hartenstein? Probably. But that's because Isaiah Hartenstein is a better rebounder than Chet Holmgren.
He's also bigger.
Yeah, sure, that's a piece of it. But my point is that Chet is a phenomenal defender.
When you're an anorexic center, this shit happens to you.
I mean, for the most part, so is Victor Wembanyama, but it doesn't happen to him. So
I know he's better.
Yeah, he's the best player in the world. So
all right, finals.
And that's kind of how that goes. Okay, so the NBA finals are really, really interesting to me. I think that going into the Western Conference Finals, I would say that playing the Spurs gives the Knicks a better chance to win than playing the Thunder. However, come game 7, I would have said I think the Knicks stand a better chance against the Thunder than the Spurs, just because going 7 games for the Thunder was much harder on them than for the Knicks, than the Spurs. The Spurs learned a lot in the series, gained a lot of experience, got pushed around, but pushed back, and learned, like you said, learned how to play very physically in this series, fully unleashed that. This series was a massive benefit to them. Even if they don't win it this year, this series long-term was a massive, massive benefit to them, right?
Yeah.
Especially considering they won it. Even if they lost it, it would have been, but especially considering they won it. But the physicality and the length of the series definitely was to the demise of the Thunder. So even if they had won it, I still probably would have picked them to beat the Knicks. But that was the Knicks' best shot, I believe, because we don't know about Dub, we don't know about AJ, all this kind of stuff. Everybody else is banged up too. They're sluggish. The Spurs are healthy. At least to what we know. Everybody is playing. Maybe somebody's got a knick-knack injury, whatever. The Spurs are healthy. I will say that matchup-wise, this is a pretty good matchup for the Knicks, because you have a guy like Karl Anthony Towns who can really force Wemby into kind of making those tough decisions because he's a stretch five. And so it's like, okay, do I go out there and play him and let people behind me to the rim, but just live with it because they're less good offensive players than Cat? Or do I kind of stay in the paint and take my chances on Karl Anthony Towns and make a smaller defender rotate to him and he shoots over them? Maybe it works for the Knicks, maybe it doesn't. Or do I kind of play in the middle and then it's kind of hard to pick a side one way or the other, and then Cat can kind of kill you with his underrated passing. My point being to all that is that I think that this is a very good matchup on paper for the Knicks, and I think that Karl Anthony Towns is, for all intents and purposes, about your best possibility of kind of breaking a Wemby-led defense, to the point that, like, that's kind of what we hoped and expected Chet to be in an optimal world in the last series, right? A stretch five that is good and knocking down shots that makes Wemby try to make those decisions. But instead, kind of like we said, Chet was soft. Chet was in his own head. Chet was very indecisive, and he did not take those shots when they were there, or didn't even really look at the rim, which is the bigger concern. So nobody was actually worried about it when he got the ball. That's not going to be the case with Karl Anthony Towns. He'll let it fly, right? So
Look,
I think that this goes well for the Knicks. And then also I think that the biggest thing, the underrated storyline that isn't getting really talked about, is that the Knicks, obviously in the first round, you can't play a team that already played 7 games because it's the first round. But in the second round, they played the Sixers, who went 7 against the Celtics. In the third round, they played the Cavs, who went 7 against the Pistons. And in this round, they're playing the Spurs, who just went 7 against the Thunder. They, every series, have played a team that went 7 games. Every series, they've been sitting at home waiting to figure out who their opponent was, and they've gotten a ton of rest in this playoffs, and they've won 11 straight games.
So, look,
I don't expect them to cakewalk this series. I don't even know if I'm picking them to win it, per se, but it's a good matchup for them. They're rested, and it's interesting.
A lot of what you said is true. And I don't want to, after stumbling out of the gates in the playoffs, the Knicks, they dominated.
Yeah.
But the Cavs suck. The Cavs destroyed Philly, and they suck.
The Cavs beat the Pistons.
That's what I meant. The Knicks destroyed the Sixers,
yeah.
Right?
Most of that without Embiid, but yeah.
The Sixers beat Boston, who I expected to be in the finals, right? The 1 seed got beat by the Cavs, who are terrible.
I mean, they're not terrible. They're not as good as the Knicks, and they're mentally weak, but they're not terrible. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals.
It doesn't matter because the rest of the East sucks. So
it's weaker than the West for sure.
So here's what I'm saying. Like, for example, I think the top 4 teams in the playoffs were all in the West, right?
I think it's extremely unfair to not call the Knicks one of the top 4 teams in the playoffs.
Look, here's where I think everybody's having a knee-jerk reaction right now. Yes, the hottest team going into the finals is the Knicks. Not going to argue it. The competition was not the same.
No, obviously not. Nobody's trying to argue that, but the Knicks have played phenomenal basketball. It'd be different if they barely skirted by to get through it. They dominated their way.
I know, which they should. Fine. It's terrible competition.
You say which they should, but nobody was picking them to do that, and they did.
No, I wasn't picking them to do it.
My
So
point.
I'm not. I already said they did what they had to do. They stumbled out of the blocks against
They did a
Orlando.
lot more than what they had to do because they dominated.
Or it wasn't Orlando. Who'd they play in round one? They lost 2 games to.
Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta. So it was Pistons that stumbled against Orlando.
Yeah.
Look, but I'm going to let my eyes see what they saw all year. Now, I will never count Brunson out. Okay? But I know who the better team is, and it's not that close. The better team is the Spurs. The finals were in the Western Conference. We already did it. Hold on.
Think I believe that to be true.
Here's what I expect to actually happen. And it's going to be interesting because the whole narrative about the Spurs and how everybody loved them in the last series is going to change because it's the Knicks, right? The media is going to turn on the Spurs because they're going to be physical. They're going to play like that last series. The Knicks haven't dealt with that yet. And Cat can't deal with that for sure. Now, here's what I think. If I'm the Knicks, here's what I am doing. I'm starting Robinson with Cat. And I'm putting Robinson on Wemby. I'm going to make Wemby work for everything that he has to do.
I think that they most likely will.
I'm playing twin bigs for sure.
I think they most likely will.
Because Cat can't guard Wemby. That's not a thing, right? That'd be like in the old days putting Enes Kanter, who's a walking double-double, on Wemby. It would be a disaster. And that's what would happen if you put Cat on him. So you got to put somebody else on him. But
I would say the issue there would be the reason that early in game 1 we went away from Hartenstein was because we thought that his benefit he gives us to rebounding and putting a big body on Wemby would be even more negated by the negative that he
yeah, because I actually think in hindsight, Hart had a good series.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that we thought that the positive that he gives us on the other end would be negated by even more negative on the offensive end because it allows Wemby to truly roam. But Hartenstein is still at least a solid offensive player and has touch around the rim. And so we saw him have a couple games where he scored relatively well, especially early in games. Yep. The difference is Mitchell Robinson does not provide you that. So I think that there's your potential hiccup because he would be an actual negative offensively. He wouldn't provide you anything. And so then Wemby will just roam off of him. And then that kind of solves the problem of whether or not he has to make a decision on Karl-Anthony Towns.
You still can't leave him wide open.
Well, obviously you're not going to leave him wide open in the dunker spot. But my point is that Victor Wembanyama can make up a lot of ground. And he's not just going to let him walk into the dunker spot.
All of that said, you're making my point. I think best case scenario for the Knicks, it's a 5-game series. I actually think that's unfair. Sweep.
I think that's unfair.
It's just two different teams.
I agree to that statement.
The Spurs are light years ahead of them. Now, I love Brunson. You know that. I think Brunson is him. But he's undersized. He can hit the big shot. He's not a great defender. Cat can't defend. He's a great offensive player, right? There's just too much going against him. When you think about all those guards for the Knicks about to be guarded by Castle and Vassell and
no,
Champagny,
absolutely. Don't get me wrong.
And then you have Wemby in the middle. Like, what are you going to do?
Okay, so you know me, and you know that my entire brain is facts, logic, analytic, right? You know that.
I think for the most part that's true.
I mean, entirely. Sometimes I make
statements. Data doesn't always prove it. You don't always take data as proof, but fair enough.
I think that numbers can be skewed and numbers can lie, but I think that for the most part, I take much more consideration into facts, logic, and analytics than I do, say, feelings and emotion. However, so every ounce of everything that it makes sense to me would pick the Spurs going away, right? However, there are two things. The biggest of which is the Knicks have done something that nobody expected to happen. Like they have already, and sure, we can look back in hindsight, in retrospect, and say, oh, the Cavs sucked. We can say, oh, the Sixers sucked. We can say all these things. But two things. First of all, they dominated. It's not like these games were close and they skirted by. They dominated.
And so were the Spurs.
They've won 11 straight games, right?
I know. We won 8 straight going into this series.
But my point is,
Yeah,
and we dominated bad teams, right? But my point is, the Knicks dominated better teams than we dominated, by the way. But the Knicks dominated, and on top of that, more importantly, not only did they dominate, but and not only can we say that those were bad teams, but you picked the Sixers, and I picked the Knicks in 7 over the Sixers, and you picked the Cavs, and I picked the Cavs, and we're not the only ones. We're not alone. We're not alone.
Now,
so we can't just say that these are bad teams because of what the Knicks did to them, when before that happened, we weren't saying those things.
No, but part of it was we started buying our own press. These teams are going to be better because it's the playoffs. Or like with the 76ers, I'm like, I didn't see this team play all year. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to say that if George is healthy and Embiid's healthy, we're going to be fine. What happened the next game after I picked that?
No, no, for sure. And so there is some exception there. But my point being that the narrative can't just change now because the Knicks have been phenomenal.
It can, because it can mean that we were just all wrong about all of that.
Agreed to some extent, but my point is that the Knicks have already done something that is completely unexpected. They weren't supposed to win 11 straight games. They weren't supposed to be this dominant. They weren't even supposed to make it to the finals. I started
by saying they're the hottest team going into the finals.
No, agreed.
And I stick by that.
But my point being is that the thing that nobody expects right now is for them to beat the Spurs. And before they got here,
but that
the thing that nobody expected was for them to make the finals. And they've done it.
It also, great. It also, everybody thinking that doesn't change the what I feel is the inevitable outcome of the series.
I agree to that most likely. That's what I'm saying, is that the logic says that. And I agree. But my point being, to completely count them out and say there's no chance, it's Spurs in 5, is kind of asinine.
Look, when
everything they've already done is completely against what everybody believes.
Game 1, Wemby and Castle could go down. And yeah, they got a chance.
Well, no, it doesn't even take that. What I'm saying is...
Can we agree on this? They have not played a defense like this in the playoffs, even close.
No, obviously. That's not a question. But, there's not a defense like that in the league other than the Thunder.
They played an offense this good.
I would say when they're both on, the Cavs offense,
but that did not happen in the playoffs.
Can be as good as the Spurs, but I do think that the Cavs offense also has a lower floor than the Spurs because the Spurs just have things that you cannot teach or coach, and the Spurs have things that raise your floor. But I would say,
all of that said,
but I didn't expect the Knicks defense to perform as well as it did against the Cavs, and yeah, the Cavs were just bad.
All of that said,
but their defense was good as well.
All of that said, and I don't like what I'm about to say, I'm rooting for the damn Knicks.
Dang.
I would love to be wrong. Right? Because I'm going to go back to what I told you. I remember where we were. We were at the pool in Maui. Right after we lost the 3-1 lead to the Warriors, and they were going into the finals. And you were like, I'm going to root for them. I like Steph. I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Stop your story because you're wrong. You're wrong.
Anyway, whatever. My point being is, hold on. What I did say was, I don't know. It feels like it could be something special. They're really young. I'm not rooting for them. They're in our conference. And that was right. And that's what the Spurs team feels like.
Yeah, so where you're wrong is the 3-1 year that we blew was the year that they went and blew a 3-1 lead, which was the second year. And they didn't win the title. It was the year before that.
You were rooting for them.
Yes, the year before that, when they were there the first time, I was rooting for them because they were playing against LeBron, and I didn't want LeBron to win because LeBron had beat us in the finals. I was in Dallas with my mom, and I was texting you about it, and you said, then you did say that. You said, don't do it. You said, don't do it. This could be bad for us. And then the next year, we went and blew a 3-1 lead to them. So yeah, you were right. And they won 3 titles in 4 years, made 5 straight finals, and then got another one later on. So you're right.
First.
No, agreed. And that's kind of why.
But let me go back to one thing I don't think we've ever talked about on this podcast.
Okay.
And this is an overarching philosophy of mine for a long time.
Okay.
Part of this comes from being, a Dolphins fan, which is not a successful franchise in general, not in my lifetime, right? And then the Sooners, right, which have a lot of success, but have tough time, especially in football, getting that championship sometimes, right? Last one was 2020 or 2000 at this point, right?
Yeah.
But we made playoffs a lot. And so you'll remember my philosophy has always been, I would rather have a team that's competitive every year, right? And you have hope every season. You're going to be a playoff team every season. You have hope, right? Then be a team that wins it and then loses for the next 20 years, right?
Yeah, I
Well,
fundamentally disagree with you, but
I know you do. I
that
know
is
you do.
something that you have said. Yes.
I will say, because this goes to the other argument we have a lot, which is, well, who's going to win an MVP first or who's going to win a title? Probably none of them,
Sure.
because it's hard to do.
Sure.
And only one player and one team does it,
Sure.
right? Even if they win this year, there's not great odds the Spurs are going to do it again. They probably would, just like I think we will do it again.
I mean, there's not
I,
great
but
odds that they're
let
going
me,
to do it again
hold
next year, but in the
on,
next 10, I would say there's pretty good odds.
if Wemby stays healthy, right?
But
Well,
again,
but here's the point I'm making. It's a little bit different once you've been there. And I don't mean it to where I still would rather have a competitive team than a bunch of losing teams. I'd still be rather have hope every year and get my heart pulled out than to never have hope at all. But this was the longest season of any NBA season in my life because we just
because none
won
of it
it
mattered.
and we started out the way we did, right? Crazy hot.
And
We
then
had
after
tons of
that,
injuries.
by
Hold on.
mid-December, we're like, can we get to April yet? Can we get to
Right.
April yet? Can we
Yeah.
get to
And
April
in
yet?
fact, I was that way from jump
Yeah.
until we were on that run. I was
Yeah.
like, well, okay, now this is entertaining for a different reason.
Yeah. The
We're
moment that
talking
74 wins was in possibility, we were like, okay,
right.
now it matters. But then
Oh,
once
okay,
it
now it
started,
matter a little bit, but
right, and then once we started to lose a
and
couple games, it's like, oh, I don't care. Can we get to April
but this
yet?
is where like the NFL is different than other sports, right?
Yeah.
And that every game in the NBA doesn't matter. Now they mattered a little more to us this year because there was only a 2-game lead, but last year we had a 10-game lead going into the,
Right. Last year it
finals,
meant a little bit less,
right?
obviously,
But
the
my
last
my
month or
point
so. But
is, it's a long season, right? To get to the playoffs, it's exhausting. And then you get to the playoffs, and we dominated the first 2 rounds, which we should have. Those teams were not good,
Mhm.
right? Dominated those first 2 and then epic series against the Spurs. Um, it was a great series just as a basketball fan, I felt. But
Yeah.
anyway,
especially
all
with
that
the bookends, right? Game 1
right.
was one of the greatest games I've ever seen, and Game 7, compared to Game 7s of history, was a relatively good game. It wasn't like a
So
phenomenal game, but for Game
yeah,
7, it was a pretty good game.
my point is when your expectations going into a season are it's kind of win or bust,
And it was, because now we're
right?
sitting here feeling like, what the hell?
Right. And then, but again, this goes back to what I keep saying about who's going to win it next. Maybe no one.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard. And so I'm still happy with the season. Like, we still were competitive. When you look at all the injuries we had all year, not too many teams. I think Shea said this in his post season presser,
Yeah.
which was, I don't know how many teams in this league could have dealt with the injuries we did all year and still won 60 games. And I think he's right.
I think his actual quote, and I don't want to like misquote him or anything, but I think his actual quote.
Yeah, I'm
was
paraphrasing to a certain degree.
No,
but that
sure.
was
But I think his actual quote was, "I don't think any team in the league could have."
yeah, and I think he's probably right.
No, agreed.
So it's just
Other than I guess the
testament-
Boston Celtics, and even then there was a 12-game difference between us and them. So,
right? But I think that's
but
just
they
part
lost their
of,
best player, not second. So there's that.
yeah, no, but I think so. I still feel the way I always have. That philosophy hasn't changed. I'd rather have a competitive team every year, even if we never won.
Here's what I will say.
But hold on. But it is much harder when you go into the first of the season with that level of expectation.
Yeah,
the season feels like forever. And that's what's different with the NFL and other sports.
So
right?
here's what I'll say.
Every game matters in those sports.
Here's what I'll say. Is I had the opposite philosophy as you, and I always have, right? Which is the amount as a sports fan that I would give up to see my team win one is a lot, right? And even if that means a lot of years of pain, right? And the Thunder haven't
give
dealt.
that up now to get a second. You would rather be competitive because you've got it.
I disagree. I honestly, so what I was gonna say is that what I was gonna say is that winning it last year, further validated me in the sense of, even if it means a lot of heartbreak and a lot of losing seasons after that, a lot of dread, a lot of drought, I would still rather do what it takes to get the one. And I think last year confirmed it even more for me. Obviously, you were still able to witness it. You were still a part of it, but you weren't in the city when it happened. You were out of town and all that. You missed the parade. You missed all that kind of stuff. I was there in
Well,
the moment with it.
your sister's
What?
volleyball's pretty important.
No, sure, sure. And I'm not obviously knocking you for that. What I'm saying is, the amount for that emotional high that I would give up right now to experience it again is a lot, right? Like, if you told me we can win it again once in the next 3 years, and then after that, for whatever reason, every member of this core is no longer on the roster, or we can have this same core again, run it back for another 15 years and be the 3 seed every year, and never win it again, I would pick win it one more time in 3 years, and then the rest of the team dies. Like, I really would. I genuinely mean that.
I think you're
From the
underestimating.
emotional high that I got as a fan, last summer was a movie.
No, we weren't there. We were the same though, and we watched it in a great environment.
Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously, I know that like
Orlando.
it meant a lot to
But
you too, and it meant a lot to both of us. But my point is, would I give up the entirety of what we believe the future of this team could be to win one more, guaranteed? Yeah, I would. I would.
I just don't think we have to do that. But
No,
yeah,
obviously. But
yeah,
my
no.
point is, if those
All
were
right.
my two options, if my two options were to see us win it one more time and then the team dies, or see this team stay together for another 10 to 15 years and then be a 2-3 seed every year and never win it again, I would pick the win it again. I would. And
Anyway,
and
okay, good
conversely,
enough.
as
Let's
a
move on.
Dolphins fan, especially considering we've made the playoffs like what, 4 times since the year 2000, are you saying you wouldn't give up 20 years of sucking to win one Super Bowl, to see the Dolphins win one Super Bowl? I mean, they're
Son,
already a bad team. That's already the norm.
look, but here's what you're missing when it comes to the Dolphins. I know the life that you've lived, right?
I get you grew up with Dan Marino. That was 26 years ago.
I know that, but I grew up with 15 years of 10-win seasons and playoffs every year,
Yeah.
right? So
And look
hold
where
on.
we're at now.
But I would take those days over this bullshit any day of
Yeah,
the week.
obviously this. But my point is, that was never the question. The question is those years or one where you win it. In these times, there's never the one where we're going to win it. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
and yet you're going through all the suffering
always-
anyways.
A good example would be OU. I've seen 2 in my lifetime, 2 championships with OU, right?
Sure.
You haven't seen any.
Yeah.
Right? But
Mhm.
you've been able to at least know that your team is going to be in the mix
Sure.
every season.
And what I
Right.
would have given last year in my last semester on the campus, what I would have given to watch John Mateer somehow come alive in the playoffs and take that team on a run and win it, it was never going to happen. But what
Don't
I
get
would
me
have given
wrong,
in my last
painful at
semester
the
on
end.
campus for that to happen, I would have given a lot. A lot.
It's painful at the end of every season with them right now.
Mhm.
However, I also know next year we're going to compete. We're not going to be OSU.
I mean, sure. Although they look solid right now. They've done a lot of really good things. Got a new coach, new quarterback. Seems pretty
Anyway,
good. But
you have to do that when you fire everybody. But
yeah.
okay,
Well, it's the first time they've
let's
done that
move
in like
on
20
to
years.
the
So.
offseason, and I will start. First,
Okay.
let's talk about the things that I feel very confident will happen.
Sure.
First, also, let me just say, whatever Presti does, I'm on board.
Agreed. You can't
He's
not
the
trust
best
him.
GM.
So
He's the best GM in professional sports.
we can talk about
Not-
it. We can talk about what we
not
would have
just the
done,
NBA.
but you can't question him.
Ultimately, whatever he does is the right decision, in my opinion, until proven otherwise, which I don't know how that is. So first, the things I know with a reasonable accuracy that I think will happen. I think Dort has played his last game as a Thunder player.
Agreed.
It's a little bit sad because
His team option is for $18 million. So whether it's accepting it and trading him or declining it,
I think we'll accept and trade it. We're not going to let him walk. We can get value.
his value is at an
Presti-
all-time low right now. But sure.
Maybe so, but there's something there, right?
Maybe.
You can get something. And so I think
Question
first
is,
of all,
would somebody give up something to pay him $18 million, or make force the Thunder to let him walk? And
I don't
then give
know.
him 12?
I think the Lakers would take it all day.
Agreed, but
Right. So
if he walks, you could pay him probably 12, because that's probably what his market is, which sucks because like 6 months ago it probably would have been like 25 on the open market. He's
look,
lost a
here's
lot
the
of money
thing.
in this
I love
playoffs.
Dort. He is one of the best defenders in the league. He's
Yeah.
the best perimeter defender in the league.
But
But
he's up
the
there.
reality is, I think we go into next season and Wallace is a starter. He's a better
That's
offensive
probably true.
player, and he's an elite defensive player too.
Yeah.
He's not Dort, but he's
Well, in this
great.
season, he made all defense and Lou Dort didn't. So, and he was
Right.
coming off
Well,
the
I mean,
bench.
he had a great season, sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I do think that Dort's gone. I'm going to be very intrigued to see what we do with Hart because we have a player option on him too, and I think it's
Yeah.
20 million.
No, his is
Um,
28 million. So the interesting thing there is I've
his,
seen so
his
many
stock
people.
is all time high.
Well, that's the thing is I've seen so many
I'm not
people
saying I
saying,
think we might take it and then trade him.
well,
I don't
so
like it, but I think it might happen.
the thing I've been seeing people say is like, oh, you can accept his 28 or sorry, you can decline his 28 and get him back on a team friendly deal like 18 to 20. And I'm sitting here thinking like, what in the world would make him take that unless he's just that team
Unless
guy?
he
And
just wants to
I
stay
think
with
he
the team.
likes the team. But my
Yeah.
point is, whenever you're not a superstar player, that's had this kind of money, you're not really in necessarily the best position in the world to just say, yeah, I'll take a discount. And I get, right, like these are all multimillionaires. It's not like it's like you're really losing money. It's like, okay, you're selling me $20 million a year. But
I won't like if he
he's not
knows
that guy that's been in the position to make $40 million in a year, right?
Right.
So,
So
my
anyway,
point being is people have said that, and I'm like, why is he going to take a more team-friendly deal when he could go get 25 to 28 on the open market? Like,
and I think easily he could get that with the way he
Right.
played Wemby.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
So I know Dort is gone, or at least I feel that's very likely.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about Hart, but
It'll
I
be
don't know that
interesting.
we want to pay him 28.
Right.
Right. I think it could be a sign and trade deal. And then
Could be.
let him do what he does. So I think those are the more likely moves. Next, I want to go to something, and I don't like to have knee-jerk reactions to things. But you had asked me a question like 2 or 3 months ago. So you did it on this podcast.
I'm glad you're going to bring it up because that was going to be my question.
And I said, no, we should not do that.
Things happen.
If it happened tomorrow, I'd be like, okay. And here's why. So what I'm talking about is you had asked me if we could get Giannis, should we? And I'm like, no. Why? He's older. The last 2 seasons, he's had some rough injury stuff, which I'm not sure how valid really is, but with the way the team's been.
Yeah, I was going to say it doesn't necessarily seem that way because he's wanted to play in Milwaukee's kept
Fair
him
enough.
out. So,
but the reason I feel that way today is Chet was terrible.
yeah,
And hold on,
disagree.
let me say something.
Continue.
You couldn't watch Game 7 and say he was good.
No, I didn't say he was good. Well,
in fact, one point he passed up a wide open three. He passed up a wide open three to pass it to Dort, who airballed it.
He was horrifically
He
disappointing.
wasn't taking that shot.
He was horrifically disappointing on offense. Yeah,
all the way around.
No, not all. He had a great defensive game, but
he did not. But
he did.
Anyway,
he did.
You were at work. I was watching the game.
I watched the whole game afterwards.
Anyway, point I'm making is, and even he was like after the game, well, I have to watch the film. You don't want to watch that film because you look scared. Yeah. Wemby lives in your head rent free. And here's the thing. He can dominate 29 other teams.
Mm-hmm. And he does.
But right now, there's only one team that matters moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
If he can't play good against that team, if he can't play good against the Spurs, he can't stay. So let me finish. So a trade. So here's the thing. I was also doing some research yesterday on this. And the other problem we have right now with our current salaries without any movement, right, is that 12th and 17th pick, we're going to pay a major luxury tax if we make those picks.
We if we make both of those picks, we lose like $80 million because the salary of those combined is like 12, and then the rest of it's luxury tax. Yeah.
Yes.
Because of it.
So, so there's a trade that works perfectly.
Okay.
If we send Chet and those 2 picks, and you get Giannis out of the deal.
So I will say 2 things to that.
You know what Giannis won't do? Back down from Wemby.
I'll say 2 things to that.
And Giannis is an elite defensive player as well.
Yeah, I'll say
a way better offensive player than Chet.
Obviously, I will say 2 things to that. The first of which, a few things.
I don't like it. I think breaks my heart. But that was the ugliest basketball I've ever seen, and the most scared basketball out of a championship roster and a championship player that I have ever seen.
Here's what I will say. The statement of what you just said, I fundamentally kind of want to agree with. But to push back on you is the exact opposite of what you just said. You said that to you, having hope every year is more important than winning one. And and to say, oh, he can dominate 29 teams, but because he can't dominate this one is much more of the mindset of it's all about getting the one.
You're confusing two things.
No, I'm not, because
Yes, you are. Hold
because if
on.
he dominates the other 29 teams, then what we're saying is that we still have hope every year. We're still going to be right in the running. We're still going to win 60 games every year. We're still going to be the 1 or 2 seed.
You
We're still going to be
misunderstand what
deep
I
in the
mean by
playoffs.
hope. You misunderstand what I mean by hope. Hope that we actually have a chance to win a championship. And right now, for the foreseeable future, that's going to go through Oklahoma City or San Antonio.
Sure.
If Chet is the guy, we don't have hope right now because we're not
disagree.
going to beat them in a playoff series if Chet's on the floor. He is useless against that team. And so my point is, unless
Do you
he
really
gets that-
expect him to never improve again and to never find a way
It's not
to have
about
a good
improving.
series against the Spurs?
It's not about improving. He was an
I mean, it
all-star
kinda
this
is.
year. During the regular season, he was great, except against that team. And that team
Sure.
is the one that matters right now.
Yeah, but my point being is that do
So,
you not think that
I
he'll
don't
find a
mean
way to
hope
have
by
a good
making
series
the
against the
playoffs.
Spurs in his life?
I mean having hope that we could actually win it.
Sure.
Chet was a liability in this series, and he definitely was in Game 7.
But I guess my point is,
Hold on. When you're a top, he's about to make $45 million next year on his new contract.
Yeah.
We had to set an elite player in the last 4 minutes because he wouldn't score, wouldn't even shoot. We set him.
but I guess my
You can't
point
have a guy making
my-
that money that you're going to set when it matters.
my point being is that you talk about hope of winning a title, right? And then you also in the same sentence talk about, or not in this, but in the same sentiment have talked about like what if Wemby's just not healthy again, right? My point being, if he can dominate the other 29 teams, what if we have another playoff run where we don't have to play the Spurs, right?
Right,
Then-
but what are the odds of that?
I agree, low, but you're the one that talks about Wemby injury, right? And so my
Hold on,
point
hold
being,
on. I want to make sure we're clear on my philosophy, right? When I say hope, I mean hope that this roster, like we had with KD, Russ, and Harden, and Ibaka, and everybody else,
sure,
every year we knew we could win it, right?
we never did.
It wasn't just that we won a bunch of games. I know that, but that team should have been capable of doing it.
But this team literally did do it.
I
Like,
know
they are capable.
but they
and they
didn't
did
have
do
to
it.
play the Spurs.
I know.
And so my point is, if we believe, which I do, that this is going to be a back and forth rivalry for the next decade, assuming health, right?
Right.
And right now, Wemby had a pretty damn good year health wise, and he's played major minutes in the playoffs. Give him credit, right? If this is who he is now, then we got to be able to beat him, or there's
Agreed.
no hope.
Agreed.
So when I say that, and the other thing to be clear on, I want to win as many titles as we can.
Sure.
It's not that I don't want to.
No, obviously.
It's that I would rather not be the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Right? So where they never have hope. Right? And so that's my point. I would rather be in that scenario than not.
Here's what I will
I
say.
would rather win titles than not win titles, though. Obviously.
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say. But back to my actual point on the honest thing. For what it's worth, to take my small victory lap once again, I asked going into the playoffs, the hypothetical, if we don't win it, is there a world where we see the panic meter button hit and we make a splash move? Hold
This is
on.
not a fair
And
victory
the
lap.
comparison I literally made was the Warriors in 2016 losing to LeBron and saying, oh, we have to be able to beat LeBron. So they went and got Kevin Durant. And nobody would have thought that was going to happen before that. And the Warriors were a great team before, and they were a great team after. And to your point, you say they don't win those titles without him. They did something that ensured they won the title. My point being is that that was the question I asked going into it. What if we lose? And what if the knee-jerk reaction is go make a move that helps us win? Go get Giannis.
On.
So
Hold on. Hold
take
on.
that. My other
I
thing
understand
being,
what you're saying, but you're twisting it a little bit, and I want to make
no,
it
that's
clear.
exactly what I asked. That's exactly the
I
question I
know
asked in
that.
that context.
I know that, but you didn't ask the whole question that what happened.
I didn't say how we lose. I just said if we lose.
I know. But I don't think your assumption was that Chet is going to look like an ass. Chet is going to look scared. Chet is going to be terrible.
No, that was not my assumption. But my point being is that
When Chet is
happen.
on the floor with Wemby, which is really weird, by the way, because Chet's always been successful against Wemby. until now. Wemby lives in Chet's head rent free, and Chet is scared of Wemby. That's not a question.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so the problem is when that's the guy we have to get past in the future, and they'll have to get past us.
Sure.
If our best guy in that role with him is going to disappear, which he did, then there is no hope. And so my point is it's different because of the way we lost and what he looked like and the fact that we're about to pay him $45 million a year for it.
Yeah.
Because he's not worth it. Even if he dominates 29 teams, if in the playoffs, he looks like he did 2 days ago against that team.
Here's the actual point. Here's the actual point I want to get to on this scenario.
And then we have to be done.
Is that if we got to a Giannis trade scenario,
yep,
I would be.
By the way, math works on that too.
Sure. I would be disappointed in it. Again, I'm not going to question Sam Presti, and if something like that happens, I ride it out, and I would be very happy to welcome Giannis. I would be, at least to some degree, disappointed in that scenario if Chet Holmgren was the guy that got traded for it, because
it has to be hammered up.
Hold on, right? Because 2 points, 3 points. The first of which being there is not a big man in the NBA better suited to play alongside, based on skill set, play alongside Giannis than Chet Holmgren. Right? Based on the spacing, based on the defense, everything, based on the movement ability, there is not a better player in the league as a big to put alongside Giannis to play well with him, right? Other than, I guess, Victor Wembanyama, but he's the best player in the world, right? So that. Then on top of that, reason number 2 being, Chet has missed some time in his career with injury, a good amount of it, but it was 2 fluky injuries, right? Which could happen again, especially with his size, right? But it could happen again. Dub, on the other hand, making a little bit more than Chet, his injuries have been ones that are like routine injuries for like injury-prone players that like mount on themselves, and that scares me, right? His weren't fluky injuries. His were hamstrings. His were ankles and wrists and like things that mount on themselves. That scares me. And then thirdly, most importantly, you talk about Chet being scared against Wemby, and I agree with that point. In a situation where we have Giannis and Chet on the same court, Giannis is much more of a physical threat and much less of a shooting threat, obviously, than Chet Holmgren. In that scenario, Wemby would be guarding Giannis. Therefore, meaning almost never, Wemby would be straight up on Chet. And who knows, maybe that doesn't change anything. Maybe Chet still just plays scared. But if he doesn't have any attention from Wemby, I think that could change it. And we're all talking hypothetical here, especially because we're talking about a guy that probably never even ends up in a Thunder uniform. But my point being, I think that can change the narrative a lot, putting Giannis on the court. So my point being, I would be a little bit disappointed if we ended up with Giannis and it was for Chet Holmgren and not J-Dub. As much as I love Dub, and I love Dub as a person more than I love Chet, right? Even. And Chet's dope. I love Chet.
Oh, but, and I think that
I would be disappointed if it was
much more of a team morale guy. Chet's much more soft-spoken. I don't know. I would rather it be Chet after this performance. I don't know.
But then the other reason is that I think that Dub's value is more replaceable because we have AJ Mitchell.
Yeah, but so look, here's the other thing. The other thing you could do is take those 2 picks and try to trade up and get that 7-4 guy. I don't remember where he's out of. He's a top 10 pick or
Michigan. He's 7-3, but Michigan, yeah.
But if we're gonna let Hart go, then you go out.
I think that's valid. Also, for what it's worth,
12 and 17 to get a pick high enough where we can get him.
So we've been talking about people have been talking about that specifically with the Hawks for 8, because that's about a realm-ish where he would probably go, and 12-17 for 8 is a relatively solid deal. So I think that's that. I think that's fair. I did also briefly want to point out the fact that you said Chet Holmgren for 12 and 17, Chet 12 and 17 for Giannis. First of all, it would be more value than that. It would be like 4 first, probably, because Giannis is still one of the 4 or 5 best players in the world.
26 over the next 6 years.
Right. But my point being, it would be more value than that. Second of which, I do believe that to a team that doesn't have infrastructure for winning, Dub is more valuable, right? I believe that to us, Chet is probably slightly more valuable, but I do believe that to the league, Dub is more valuable because he has more potential to end up as a number one guy, number one option in an offense than Chet
I
does.
mean, if he's healthy, he's
Um,
obviously a number one guy anywhere but here.
I don't know that it's obvious just because he's still only averaged like 19 points a game in his best season, but part of that is
But
where he
that's
is
because
right
he's
now.
playing second to the leading scorer in the league.
Sure. But I guess my point being is that I believe that they would like a package with Dub to replace Giannis more than Chet.
And let's not forget, Dub has done something in the finals that Chet's never sniffed, which is a 40-point game.
Sure, but Chet also had ridiculous value in all those games, especially defensively. Like he's really good. But um, all that to be said, the likelihood of Giannis ending up for the Thunder is playing for the Thunder is very low. That being said, two of the other teams that have consistently in this time period been floated were the Knicks and the Spurs, and those are the two teams in the finals. So I guess that does also increase our value, our possibility of getting him if the other two teams kind of in the running for it aren't
Right.
necessarily looking for him because they're
And
still playing basketball.
if you're the Spurs right now, I can't imagine a world you
No,
wouldn't
no, no, no,
consider.
no, no. The Spurs probably wouldn't, but then again, seeing
I
Giannis and
mean, I
Wemby
could
on the
see the
same
Knicks
court,
doing it. Then if they got swept, I could still see them doing it.
right?
But
But yeah,
okay, move on.
yeah. Let's move on. Lastly, just because I don't think we officially did it, I want to lock it in. Predictions for the finals, team and games. Official prediction.
Spurs in 5. I'm gonna give them 1 at MSG.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Spurs in
Too
6.
much all year. That's what I'm going.
I'm gonna go Spurs in 6. And
I'm going because of the history of MSG. I'm giving them a game. I really think it's a sweep by the Spurs.
yeah, I hard disagree with that. I'm gonna go Spurs in 6. Because I can't let all the logic and facts and analytics overpower it with emotion of the what if. Because at this point, going into the playoffs, the emotional part of me said, what if Wemby's just the best player on the planet? And now all the facts and logic and analytics says, well, it's not a what if, he just is the best player on the planet. And they're the best team in the league. I mean, it's close with us and them, obviously, but as of right now, they're the best team in the league. And so you got to beat them, right? So I'm taking Knicks in 6 because I also do think that Spurs in 6. But I that's the other part of it being that I do think that Wemby's official, fully like cemented taking over the league moment is winning a Finals MVP at the Garden, right in Game 6. That would be insane. So
I think he'll do it in Game 4 at the Garden.
sure, but I think Nick Spurs in 6. But also, as much as all the logic and facts and analytics go against it, if the Knicks somehow pulled it off in 7, would it be the most shocking thing in the world considering the last 2 months of basketball that I've watched? No, it just wouldn't, right? Like
It'd be damn shocking.
it'd be pretty surprising, but it wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, how did the Knicks do this? Because we've been saying that for 2 months now.
Kind of would.
Um,
Kind of would.
also,
This is the best team by far they played in the playoffs. It's
yeah,
not
for
close.
sure. So I'm taking Spurs in 6, official pick. Also,
All right.
if they were able to do it, the Jalen Brunson turning down the extra $113 million 2 years ago to build this entire roster might be the single greatest thing anybody has ever done in any sport ever, from a team aspect. If they were to pull it
100%.
off.
They're not going to.
Sure.
But even getting to this point, it's still a big deal that he did that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But
I think
yeah.
it's dumb, but fair enough.
So Spurs in 6.
All right.
That's my pick.
You okay?
Yeah.
I'm predicting a sweep, more than likely. I might give him 1 in MSG, but I think it's a sweep. You know why by the way, I think the crowd is not going to be what everybody thinks. Have you seen the ticket prices? Average people aren't going to this. It's all celebrities.
Obviously. But
the cheapest tickets are $5,000 for a seat.
Yeah, it's like 2,000, but like 3 or 4 actually. But
yeah, normal people can't pay that.
Sure.
So
I mean,
all right.
They were like 900 in Oklahoma City last year. Like,
yeah, how many people actually got that is the question.
The
average household income in Oklahoma City is $53,000 a year. They did not get that many people to pay that. That might have been what they were going for. They didn't get it.
Sure, but
guaranteed. Anyway. All right, NFL news. Let's start with the obvious one. I'll kick it off. The Myles Garrett signing or trade.
Holy.
Look, let me just practically take it for a minute, and then I'm going to go down a tangent.
So Myles Garrett for a first next year, a third the year after. No, sorry, a first next year, a second the year after that, and a third the year after that. Go.
Yes.
And Jared Verse.
So first, let's just take the trade on the outset, and then I'm going to go into it a little deeper. Okay. I actually think this is a decent trade for both sides. Now, I think it's going to get wasted by the Browns because they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
I think
But
that it is about the value, as much value as
let
they could
me
have hoped
finish
for.
a thought today. The fact is, they're not going to be competitive in Myles Garrett's prime. They're getting value for him right now. They
Yeah,
got a younger guy. He's not Myles Garrett, obviously. He's a decent player,
I mean,
and now they've got
more
2
than
first
decent. He's a really good
yeah,
player. He's just not
and
Miles
now
Garrett,
and now he has also 2 first-round picks. Now they'll blow the picks, so it won't matter, but it is a smart move, okay?
especially in a loaded draft class, at least in
Right,
theory.
because and then obviously right now in that division, we've talked about it. They're gonna beat the crap out of each other next year, right? You got the Super Bowl champs who at this point haven't gotten better. I don't think they've got significantly worse, but they
I mean,
certainly
they've
haven't
definitely
gotten better.
gotten worse. They haven't, not significantly maybe, but they've definitely gotten worse.
Anyway, I don't think degrees that it's that bit different, but and then
It's a
and
lot.
then the Rams have definitely done some things to improve. They were already an elite offense last year. Their defense was really good. And now you took in this era for sure the most dominant defensive player we've ever seen, at least in the last 20 years, probably. You could argue JJ's early career was pretty close, but
And Aaron Donald.
yeah, different position, but fair enough. So you put him on this team. What you've done to Seattle, who cares about the Cardinals? What you've done to Seattle and what you've done to San Francisco now is said that every play, because he's an every down guy, this is where he's way different than a guy like Micah Parsons. He plays the run, he plays the pass. He's elite in every way. He is a all-around defensive player, right? He's not just an elite pass rusher. He is an elite defensive player, right? Like Aaron Donald was for a tackle. That's
Is it fair to
crazy.
say?
Hold on,
Is it
let me
fair to?
finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. So now what you've done is taken a team with the Rams that were already obviously I felt like they played in the Super Bowl last year against in the NFC Championship game, right? We've talked about that many times. And I've given you a guy now on their defensive side that I now have to scheme for. That is scary enough because you're going to have to double him, right? And that defense is pretty good anyway,
Yeah, you still
right?
got Byron Young, Braden
Yep.
Fisk, like Kobe Turner.
But
That
let me
defensive line
ask
is
you a
stacked.
question. Let me ask you a question that makes this way scarier.
Okay.
What is one benefit that for the majority, if any, of his career, Myles Garrett has never had the benefit of having?
This has always been the argument to answer your question. This has always been the argument that I've given for him versus TJ Watt is that TJ Watt's always played alongside Cam Hayward and other guys. Myles Garrett's never had anything. Myles Garrett's never played alongside anybody. Anybody
Well,
that's
I mean,
ever had
that defense is pretty
success,
good, but that's not the point.
right?
What's the
But that
one?
was because of Myles Garrett.
I'm not
Like
talking players. I'm not talking scheme. What's the one thing that Myles Garrett's never had in his career?
another dominant player on the defensive line.
Nope, don't care.
Okay, I mean, true statement, but
He's never been on a team where he would be routinely playing with a lead.
oh well, I mean, yeah, that too,
Do you
obviously.
know how big a deal that is to an elite pass rusher? And he still set
Numbers
the sack.
wise, sure. Impact not necessarily, but
But
numbers wise,
I
for
would be
sure.
shocked. I would be shocked, for example, last year if they had to lead 30% of the time.
Yeah, they didn't.
They're going to have it 85% of the time next season,
Yeah,
which means
because they're
he's
going
going
to
to be
score first, and that's it.
in the third and fourth quarter. He's going to be teeing off. He's never had that.
Is there a world?
He might
And
go for 30 sacks.
okay, I'm not going to be that insane. I was going to say, is there a world
Are
where he
you
breaks the
kidding?
record 2 years in a row? But
Hold on. Yeah, maybe because
yeah,
he's in
maybe
his prime.
30's stupid, but
This is the best team by a mile. Maybe not all defense, right? But when when you think about the fact that in the third and fourth quarter, he might be playing with double-digit leads half or more of the time. Do you know what that means to a pass rusher? He's
yeah,
never had that.
yeah,
He's had to be in positions where he had to be prepared to play the run and the pass in the third and fourth quarter because people are just running time down,
hmm
right? Because all of their games were low scoring because of
right,
him, right? Now he's going to have a lead.
yeah,
You
scary.
imagine what that looks like.
And
Now, take it one step higher. If Aaron Darnold comes out of retirement now,
Yeah.
and let's say he's only 85% of what he was it been 2 or 3 years?
4, I think, honestly.
Is it? He's still
It's been a
young. I
while.
think he's 34.
Like 33 to 35, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if he's 85% of his prime, 85%, and Sean, now he could just be trolling everybody, did say today, I still talk to him.
No, I think he probably genuinely does still talk to him.
No, I know he does that. I think he knows whether or not he would come back or not. He told the reporter today, he goes, well, you go call him and ask him. I don't know. I talked to him. So, look, I don't actually think that's going to occur.
Do you see what?
Hold on. If he did, you have 2 guys on the defensive line that you have to double.
Mm-hmm.
That means if
And Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, and Byron Young, like, who are all good defensive players.
And if it's 3rd and long,
oh yeah, it's over.
I'm one-on-one on the outsides and I'm blitzing. You got nothing. There's nothing you can do.
If it's 3rd and long, you might as well just run. If that's the case, like,
you might just get out of this because you're about to get toasted.
You might as well spike the football.
This
so
might
your quarterback
be
doesn't
the
die.
Trade for a division, and this will definitely put the Rams. I think they were already in the driver's seat to win the Super Bowl.
I mean, they were already the odds-on favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. This is going to make that gap significant in Vegas.
Yeah.
Like, this trade is crazy.
Is Myles Garrett actively the best player in the NFL?
I can't go there.
I would say so.
So valuable.
I would say I agree with you. Quarterback is more valuable, but
like I would put a short quarterbacks before him.
No,
he's
here's what I would.
The best defensive player, and it's not close.
Obviously, but here's what I would say. My argument would be that quarterback is obviously the most valuable position in sports, but the second most valuable position in pro football is putting pressure on the quarterback.
I think that's him, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
And to my point, I would say, while I believe that Josh Allen is probably narrowly the best quarterback in the league, I would say that there is a bigger gap between Myles Garrett and number 2 edge rusher than there is between Josh Allen and whether you want to call it Patrick Mahomes, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. I would say that there's a bigger difference between Myles Garrett and number 2 than there is Josh Allen and number 2.
So here's
I'll call Myles Garrett the best player in the league.
I'm not going to put a big argument into that. What I will say is this. The difference with Myles Garrett, there are other guys that can rush the passer as good as he can.
Not as good as he can. Really well. Not as good as he can.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Crosby, TJ, these guys can get after you.
Micah.
And they're game. Yeah, they're game.
Aiden Hutchinson, Will Anderson.
But here's the difference between Myles Garrett and all those guys that makes him significantly better.
Uh-huh.
He plays every damn down.
Well, and not
which is,
just
by the
that.
way, why his sack total's higher. He plays every down. Well, he doesn't just play in 3rd and long, and he's an elite run stopper. And so I'm not saying they're as good a player at that one aspect. They're close to him.
Maybe.
But they don't.
But to your point, through 9 seasons, the only player in the history of the sport that has more sacks than him is Reggie White. And to your point, he never played on teams with the lead. And he still has that sack number. Like, he's stupid.
That's what I'm saying. That's the part that's scary.
Yeah.
Take everything else out. The fact that he's going to be playing on a team with the lead most of the time is a crazy thing to think about.
So if you discount,
because you get to play reckless when you have a lead.
If you discount,
you don't have to be near disciplined.
If you discount the 1972 Vikings that had Alan Page, who won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, the same player, and the 1985, I believe it was, 84, I believe, New York Giants, who had Lawrence Taylor, who won Defensive Player of the Year and MVP the year before, the same player, right? This Rams team is going to be the only team in NFL history to have the reigning MVP and Defensive Player of the Year on the same roster. Again, under the assumption that it's 2 different players, right? Ever, right? In 1994 or 95, I think it was 94, Dion won DPOY and Steve Young won MVP, and they were on the same roster. But the next year, Dion went to Dallas, so they weren't on the same roster as reigning, right? This is the only time in NFL history that the reigning MVP and Defensive Player of the Year coming into the season are on the same roster.
Yeah,
That being said, the Rams this season are returning the league leader in passing yards and passing touchdowns, receptions while missing 2 games in Puka Nacua, receiving touchdowns while missing 3 games in Devontae Adams, and sacks, which is an all-time record in Myles Garrett. And, oh, by the way, they just went and added a guy that's at worst a top 3 or 4 corner in the league in Trent McDuffie.
Look, this is, like I said, this is scary just looking at it at its base. But when you start talking about the fact that we've never seen Myles Garrett to get to play routinely with a lead, I don't even know what this looks like. And if by some
It's
weird
scary.
miracle, if the football gods shined even more on the Rams and Darnold came back, like
Donald.
it's
Aaron Donald.
Yeah. It's over.
Yeah.
You won't be able to do anything offensively.
The only thing at this point, and I don't think I'm even being
Stafford could
hyperbolic.
put up 17 points a game and they win just about everything.
I don't even think I'm being hyperbolic. We've seen super teams in the NBA not work out necessarily just because you got to play both sides and it's a lot less players and depth matters a lot and that kind of thing. Anytime there has been even remotely like a super team assembled in the NFL, it typically works out, right? Like the 2020 Bucks, the 2021 Rams, like these teams, like we've seen this stuff happen, right? The Cowboys in the 90s, the Niners in the 80s.
But
Well, sure, but still like super team in the sense of
free agents like Dion, but
right.
That team
But-
is built.
Yeah, no, obviously, I'm not saying built the same way. I'm just saying like most of the time where you see this complete collection of talent assembled, right? The 2024 Eagles, right? Again, for the most part, most of those players were still drafted and stuff. But my point being that anytime you see this collection of talent gather where like one roster is that much far ahead of everybody else in the league, unlike the NBA, in the NFL, it typically works out, right? So I don't think I'm even being hyperbolic in saying that at this point, the best chance that any other team in the league has of dethroning them as the Super Bowl champs is praying for injury. Like, I believe that at this point, whether it's to Stafford or to Myles Garrett or to both, right? I believe that.
Healthy and their team stays healthy, they're going to win a lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not being, and they may not end up as the 1 seed, right? They might lose 3, 4, 5 games in the regular season.
I don't see a world where they
Agreed. I agree, but I'm saying that I guess it's possible, right? Come playoff time, they won't lose. They won't. Right. Again, pray for injury. Pray for it because you're going to need it.
I'm going to say
it.
one last thing on this trade, and that's leave it to the Browns to break football.
Yeah, I mean, and they did. It's crazy. Shout out the Rams. Since the year of 2016, which was the year that they had the number 1 overall pick and drafted Jared Goff, since that year, they have been to the Super Bowl twice, won it once, went to the NFC Championship game again this year, and to your point, basically played in the Super Bowl. Since the year 2016, they have made 3 first-round draft picks. Jared Goff, Jared Verse, and Ty Simpson this year. Because they're not a great drafting team when they pick it. Now, those 3 picks, and Ty Simpson we'll see, but those 3 picks all hit. But even like later in the draft, they're not a great drafting team. But what they do really, really well is use those assets to trade them for great known quantities and pay them all properly and proportionately, manage those contracts really well. They do that incredibly well. That's how you end up with a super team that has Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp in the best season of his career, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and Jalen Ramsey, and you win a Super Bowl. And that's how you end up with a team.
That brings me to that trivia question I was going to ask you. What was the last team that had a blockbuster trade that won the Super Bowl the following year?
The Rams, I'm assuming. Yeah. Right.
But they had 2 trades, Stafford and you mentioned it already, but
3 really: Stafford, Von Miller, and Jalen Ramsey. Well, no, Von Miller got cut, and they
Von Miller was a trade. He was a trade for 2nd to 3rd.
Oh, okay, right. And then also Jalen Ramsey as well. Or Jalen Ramsey, they might have signed in free agency.
I
No, I
think they
think
signed him in free agency.
no, I think they traded for him, but he might have been there for a year already. Like he might have not been that offseason. Maybe they got him a year earlier. But my
Anyway,
point being is that they assembled the super team because they know how to use their assets and go get guys. And they did the same thing again, right? They actually drafted really
well,
well defensively
but
over
you
the last
add
couple
to
of years.
that they draft a lot of the secondary guys well, and just great coaching. What
Yeah.
are you going to do?
No, for sure. Great coaching
Again, when
and
you get coach right,
overall great GMing, right? I don't like the Ty Simpson pick, but other than that, Les Snead has been phenomenal, and they're
all
probably
right,
going to
get
go
the
win a
other,
Super Bowl for it.
hit a couple of guys real quick, and then we'll
Yeah, yeah,
move
yeah,
on.
yeah. Just briefly,
Quick.
we've all known this for months, obviously, but under the assumption that it was going to happen on June 1st. But June 1st has officially come and gone, and officially AJ Brown is a Patriot. Big deal for Drake May. Big deal for that offense to get a real official number one. And like, yeah, they had Stephon Diggs last year who played really well, but he was old, much older than AJ Brown, and just not as physically gifted as AJ Brown. And
I'm going to make a prediction.
AJ Brown was sitting there wasting away, rotting in Philly, and he's phenomenal. So,
I'm going to make a prediction.
okay,
This is going to be a cluster. And
I
I'll tell you
disagree.
what. That's fine. I'm just going to go with history.
Okay.
Right now, we saw what it looked like when Drake May played elite defenses in the playoffs. He was bad.
But he didn't have an AJ Brown. Now he has a safety net.
Stop. Let me finish.
That matters a lot.
I've seen this movie. Right? You're acting like Stephon Diggs was a chump, which is not true.
But he's not AJ Brown.
Whatever.
In his prime, sure. He's not in his prime.
My point is, they had the easiest schedule in football last year. They have the toughest this year.
Sure. They're not going to win 14 games.
Their year is not going to be even close to last year, and AJ is going to get super frustrated. And
I disagree. I don't think here's where I disagree with you. I don't think AJ cares about winning, especially because he's already won one. I don't think he cares about winning. I think he wants numbers, and so he's not going to get frustrated because he's going to get his numbers. Like that's going to happen.
I don't know that he's going to get numbers.
I disagree.
Drake May's not going to have the season he did last year. He's not.
I think that there's a chance that it might look slightly worse, but I don't think that it's going to be as drastic as you think. And I also believe that no matter what, AJ Brown is going to get his numbers because there's not really a lot to detract from him on their offense. So my point being is that I believe Drake May is legit, and you're right. Yes, he did struggle in his first ever postseason appearance.
He didn't struggle. He sucked.
Sure. I mean, when you put his numbers side by side versus Tom in their first playoffs, they were pretty much identical, but Tom won it because the team was stupid good. But anyways, my point being,
much different offense, by the way.
Sure. My point being, I do expect a little bit of a drop off, yes, but that's because they won 14 games last year. I don't expect them to win 14 games again this year. And you're right, it is going to be a tougher schedule. But two things that Drake May now has, at least in theory and on paper, that he didn't have last year.
I don't want to talk about this much longer.
Right. He didn't have last year was a true number one safety net, right, that he now has in AJ Brown, physical specimen freak, and an offensive line. His offensive line last year was very banged up, very hurt, very inconsistent, not very great. They've gotten healthy, and they've also added a couple pieces. They added Elijah Vera Tucker from the Jets, who's a phenomenal guard. Like they're going to be a better, more improved offensive line, and more importantly, they got AJ Brown. So I do believe that this helps them. I think that's a big deal. Also, minor news that's probably not going to matter, but when you have a really young quarterback, it matters to help him get weapons to potentially improve him. The Giants added Odell, which who cares? Juju, again, probably who cares? But again, you're going to get Malik Neighbors back from injury, who's going to be your real number one, and then those guys are going to be like 2, 3, 4 kind of guys. And they also added Darnell Mooney, who will probably be their real number 2. So if you put Darnell number 2, Juju 3, and Odell 4, it can be a solid core, especially when you have Harbaugh coaching you. Who knows? I don't think it's going to matter, but who knows? And then last piece.
He's known for those high-flying offenses.
Well, who knows? That's why I said who knows. And then last piece of real news, Drake London today got a 4-year, $151 million extension. Phenomenal receiver. It hasn't resulted in a ton of wins because their team has not
resulted in big numbers either.
Great. I mean, he's had big numbers.
Look, I like the signing. I just don't know that it's worth that kind of money.
It probably isn't, especially for them. Again, that they've been inconsistent, but they did bring in Kevin Stefanski to be their head coach, and so the offense might improve. And you're bringing in a guy who, with a good offensive coach and good weapons, has proven that if he stays healthy, he can put up numbers in this league in Tua. So we'll see. Who knows? Especially in an inconsistent division, right? We might be putting money on the Saints to win the division at the end of this offseason. Who knows? But
I mean, they surprised me last year, that's for sure.
right. So who knows? It's an
Okay.
inconsistent division, so you never know. I think that's about all we got for the NFL. Stay tuned over the next probably month or so. We'll start to get into NFL preview stuff as we count down the days to the NFL season coming, the college football season coming. Have a lot of stuff to talk about there, preview there. We'll have some fun with it. So stay tuned for that. We'll enjoy ourselves. So, yeah, but we've got a couple more segments to introduce to you before we get out of here. So first, I think we will take it away with Dad having a buzzer beater beef for us.
Okay. Buzzer beater beef.
So
yes. Historically, you disagreed with this statement, but I'm going to make it again.
Okay.
If Kevin Durant doesn't join the Warriors, Steph only has 2 rings.
Okay, I think that is a relatively fair take, and I also like the fact that without this, you cannot do anything but give props to LeBron James for being a historically dominant player that without one of the greatest assembled teams of all time would have probably 2 more rings. However, I do think that these series at that point get much closer, but I don't think it's cut and dry. First of all, they did already beat the Cavs once. Second of all, those Cavs teams, when they got to the finals, not only were the Warriors phenomenal, but the Cavs were really banged up in both of those last 2 years. Like, they had nothing. By the 2018 one, Kyrie wasn't even on the roster anymore. He was in Boston, right? So that is a piece of it also. And those series were not close. Like, over the 2 years, the Warriors went in the finals 8-1 against the Cavs. Like, those series weren't close. So I do believe that Kevin Durant being on the roster obviously was the biggest piece of it. He was the finals MVP in both those years for a reason. However, I do think that it becomes a lot closer and the Warriors still have a chance to win it, because the other piece that if they don't get Kevin Durant, right, they're not paying him $30 million a year at the time, for whatever the contract number was. They have a lot more depth. They don't lose Harrison Barnes. They don't lose these other guys. Or even if they do lose him, they replace him with several other depth pieces other than Kevin Durant, because that's what they would do there. I think that it makes the team very different, and I think less historically dominant, but I think it's still possible they win it.
Okay. 2 things. First of all, 0% chance in 2018. There's a thing about that playoff run that you're forgetting. Steph missed 6 games. Without Durant, they don't even make the finals. So they had no chance in 2018. That one's gone. You can't argue that. Without Steph or Durant, over 6 games in the playoffs, no way. In 2017, Durant averaged 9 more points a game in the playoffs than Steph did. And was almost 10% higher in shooting percentage, because obviously Durant's one of the more best scorers of all time, efficiency-wise, right? So in 2018, Steph missed 6 games. He played 15. Kevin played 21. In 2017, Kevin averaged 9 more points a game in the playoffs than Steph did. Steph was still great. He was 26.8, but Kevin was 35.2, right? On much more efficient shooting. And to your
The
point,
playoffs or the finals?
Oh, the finals in that case.
Okay.
But anyway, point is,
That's
definitely not 2018. There's no way to argue that.
All right, it's over. Just wrap up. I would say that the missed games point is valid. I believe 2018 they swept the Cavs. That is also the year they got pushed to 7 against the Rockets. So I think that was obviously your chance there, is to lose in 7 to the Rockets. That's a fair point. The injury bug definitely was helped by the fact you have Kevin Durant. in the year before. I don't think that's necessarily fair because, again, that series was never really close. Like, LeBron was superhuman and it didn't matter. But again, yes, he averaged 9 more points because he just was absolutely taking over. But if you take him off
But
that roster
okay,
and
much
surrounded
higher.
Steph with other guys that are great defenders and great shooters, then he probably averaged a couple more points. Some of those guys would take
But no
points.
one they could have
Like,
gotten is Kevin Durant's efficiency.
no, obviously, for sure.
Kevin was shooting well over 50% from the
We've had this
field.
conversation. Obviously, it gets much closer. I don't necessarily think it's cut and dry. The Warriors don't win them, but I do also believe that it does kind of go to the greatness of LeBron James. That is what it took to beat him, and it worked. But that's what it took. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll get into our next new one. Still kind of workshopping a name, but Blind Beef. That's probably what it goes with. I don't know. Kind of corny. But Blind Beef, something to that effect. It's a blind rankings. Obviously, y'all know how this works. It's not anything new, not any kind of new content or anything to that effect. But we're going to blind rank 10 NBA champions. I capped it with 1980 as being the furthest back. So the last 46 NBA champions, 1980 to 2025. And I random number generated 10 names within that time period, 10 numbers, and then took the champion. And I'm going to have you blind rank them. Again, it was completely random, so I didn't put any thought, anything like that into it. The only thing I made sure of was that it wasn't like crazy repeats or anything. And I'm not trying to trip you up on order or anything. Like, I didn't specifically get them and then move the order around. So
Fine.
We'll start with number 1. Kid you not, first one I pulled up, 1998, The Last Dance. Bulls in 6. Michael Jordan wins Finals MVP over the Jazz. You have
Number 1.
Okay. Any reason for that?
I mean, I get that I lived it, watched it, and I think MJ's the GOAT.
Sure.
It's arguably one of the best runs we've ever seen. That team was just so dominant. I understand record-wise the Warriors got them by a game. Like, I get that. But that
Not in the year they
team
won the title, though, so
right.
fair.
But that team was just is one of the best, most
Is there any
crazy
champion?
dominant
Is
seen.
there any champion over the last 45 years that would make you, if they were on this list, make you question whether or not to put the 98 Bulls at 1?
Just the Warriors, the one Warriors team.
In like 17 or 18 with KD?
Yeah, they were still great teams.
Sure.
Even though they weren't setting
Would
team.
there be any argument for the 2000 Los Angeles Lakers with Kobe and Shaq that only lost 1 game in their entire playoff run?
Yeah, there'd be an argument for that.
Okay.
I think I'd still put him at 2.
I'm not telling you whether any of those teams are on the list. I'm just sake of the argument.
I would probably still put them at 2 if they were if I knew, but you could make arguments for sure.
Okay. The next number I randomly generated was 1985. The Lakers beat the Celtics in 6. This was the Lakers' 4th consecutive finals appearance and 5th in 6 years. This was the Celtics' 2nd of 4 consecutive finals appearance.
So this is
Kareem,
Bird Magic and all
yeah,
those teams.
Bird Magic. Kareem won this finals MVP.
I'm gonna go 3.
3? Okay. All right. The next
I
one,
feel like I might be going high, but that's a great team.
Fair enough. The next one, 1982 Lakers over 76ers in 6. Magic won this finals MVP. This was
Are we
the
doing 10 or 5?
10. This was the I guess first of their 4 consecutive. This was the first of, I think, 2 years in a row that the Lakers and Sixers played each other in the finals, actually. And at this point, this was like the 4th time in the last, like 3rd or 4th time in the last 6 years that the Sixers made the championship, but they didn't win any of them.
Yeah,
in that time period.
I'm gonna go 6.
6? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
The next one is the 03 Spurs beat the Nets in 6 games. Duncan was finals MVP. This is their 2nd of 5 titles with Tim Duncan. This was David Robinson's last season in the league, but he was hurt in and out of the lineup, played like 50 games that season. I don't know whether or not he was present in the finals.
I'm going to say 7.
7. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a team that you can think of off the top of your mind that you're holding out for 10? Like that just like wasn't a great champion?
Yes.
Do you have any ideas? What, like, let me hear your
Do I
thought
know
process.
who I would put there?
Yeah.
That's your question? Yeah, I'd put the Mavericks there. They had no
Okay.
business being.
Fair enough.
That was a complete. That's why LeBron's not the GOAT. That series. That's
But
why he's not the
in
GOAT.
fairness, though, that was a
He was the
stupid.
third best scorer on his team.
That was
and he
a
had a game
stupid.
where he scored 8.
Yeah, that was a stupid title run for them that year. They beat the Thunder, they beat the Heat, they beat the reigning champion Lakers in that title run. Like, that was a stupid title run for them. Like, it wasn't just the Heat.
No, I know, but that team.
Agreed. I don't think that team was like super phenomenal or anything, but
No, that's who I would hold out for 10.
the 1989 Detroit Pistons, they swept the Lakers in the finals. Joe Dumars won MVP. That was their first of back-to-back.
I really don't respect that group at all.
Why?
I'm not saying Isaiah. Look, Dennis was a great player. Obviously, he wasn't the same player then that he ended up being later. Obviously, Isaiah Thomas is an all-time great, but that was just a thug team. They just beat the shit out of you. It wasn't basketball, right?
They did go through Mike in both of their titles.
I know before, and then Mike put on 40 pounds, and they never beat him again.
The team also fell apart, but yeah.
I'm gonna go 9.
Okay. 2014, the San Antonio Spurs beat the Heat in 5 games. Kawhi Leonard was MVP. This was the last of the Spurs' 5 titles, and that one was when they had Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Kawhi, a little bit before prime, the other guys slightly after. But I think Ginobili was on the team. I think Kawhi was an All-NBA player as early as the season after this, and Tim Duncan was an All-NBA player, I think, in this season maybe. So they were still a really good team. But
I put them at 5. They were a
5?
good team. They were dominant, and they were great defensive. And obviously, that was the coming out party for Kawhi.
Yeah, absolutely. 2022 Warriors.
And one of the most underrated players in history is Duncan.
No, absolutely. He absolutely gets slept on all the time. Do you think, because it's been a discourse recently, do you think Tim Duncan has a better overall career than Kobe Bryant?
I think in some ways numbers would say so, and winning would say so.
Really? I would say winning says so. I would say numbers probably don't say so. Because defensive numbers don't get slept on a lot.
I meant just like consistency. He was a walking double.
Fair enough.
Right? I mean, he definitely averaged a double-double for his career. He had to.
I think it'd be pretty close, probably, yeah. But probably most likely. The last couple years probably kind of slow it down a little bit, but
I'm gonna go Kobe just because Kobe could impact the outcome of the game in a way that a power forward couldn't. Right? Like he could be ball dominant and he could take games over, and Duncan in that position was dependent.
I would slightly lean Duncan in my personal opinion, but I it's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. It's just been something that's been on discourse a lot recently.
Again, I think part of my reasoning though is what we talked about earlier with Wemby and Michael. Just that will to go out there and kill you on the court.
Yeah.
Is something that's rare. And he had it, Michael had it. I think Wemby has it. Just different.
2022, the Warriors over the Celtics in 6. Steph finally gets his illustrious Finals MVP. This was their 4th ring. 8. So the next one, the 2007 Spurs. They swept the Cavs. LeBron's first Finals appearance. This is their 3rd ring with Duncan. This is kind of the prime of Duncan, Tony Parker, who won Finals MVP, Manu.
I'll go 4.
Okay. I think that probably is like the peak of Spurs teams, so I think that's fair. The 1990 Detroit Pistons beat the Blazers in 5s. Isaiah Thomas won MVP here. So are you going 2 or 10?
They're not 2. As long as Dallas doesn't pop on this list, I'm feeling pretty good.
Okay.
So I'm going to say 10.
So how bad would you feel right now if the last one was the 2011 Dallas Mavericks?
I'll be pissed and I'll feel like it was rigged.
It's not rigged. I promise you. Right hand on everything. Right hand on everything.
If someone's going to screw my list up, I'm
completely random generated. And for that reason.
I feel pretty good. Yeah.
It is not the 2011 Dallas Mavericks. It is a year prior, the 2010 Los Angeles Lakers. Lakers over Celtics in 7. Kobe Bryant wins Finals MVP. This is his 5th title. They've got Powell. They've got Lamar Odom. They've
That was
got
a good team. That was a
Derek
really good team.
Fisher.
And that was
Really good
kind
team.
of the peak of Kobe's powers.
Ron Artest hit the game, or hit the bucket dagger to go up 6 with a minute left.
It was kind of the peak of Kobe because he did it without Shaq.
Yeah.
So
that's your number 2.
That's
your number 2. So to run over your list, you've got the 98 Bulls, the 2010 Lakers, the 85 Lakers, the 07 Spurs, the 14 Spurs, the 82 Lakers, the 03 Spurs, the 22 Warriors, and then to round out the list, the 89 and 90 Pistons.
I forgot about that.
All right. I think you did solid. I think you did a solid job.
Not even blind. I think I would do that again the same way.
All right. I think you did a solid job.
All right.
So that's it for our blind beef. Now we'll get into our last segment. Our last segment of the show. We're going to call this one The Butcher. All right, The Butcher. This one is also nothing new, something that everybody's familiar with in short form content. But this is just a basic keep 3, cut 5. And for this one, I did a very similar thing. Hit the random generator 8 times. This one, I cut the minimum at 1969, because in this one, we're talking about finals MVPs. Keeping 3, cutting 5, finals MVPs. 1969 is the very first year that the finals MVP was awarded, which is why Bill Russell doesn't own the record for the most finals MVPs of all time. But we're just going to rank, or not rank, we're going to keep 3, cut 5. Random finals MVPs 1965 to now. Just hit the random number generator 8 times. I did have to hit it a couple more times than that because the only criteria I had with this that took some of the slight randomness out of it was that I ensured that there was no crossover between the last list and this list in terms of years. So for that record, full disclosure, I did get actually twice within my 8. I did get the 1998 Bulls twice trying to randomly generate. And so I clicked again because I didn't want to get that's just no fun.
Well, also, no place on earth am I cutting Michael Jordan over anyone.
Obviously, and I wouldn't have expected you. I expected you to. That would be a right answer. But the first one on the list, keep 3, cut 5. 2023, Nikola Jokic averaged in the finals 30.2, 14, and 7.2 against the 8 seed Miami Heat in 5 games.
One of the best players I've seen at that position. I don't like his defensive game, but offensively, passing, creativity, I'm keeping him.
That's rough. Keeping the first one. That's interesting. No feeler.
I know, but I mean, Jokic, man.
Yeah, true. Nikola Jokic is that guy.
Yeah, maybe it's a bit of recency bias, but
Nikola Jokic is dominant. And like I said, he averaged 30.2, 14, and 7.2 in 5 games. So
what if we gave up a first and second and brought in Jokic? Just kidding.
What if the entire league fell off the face of the earth? That's the question you just asked me.
I'm just kidding. Next.
Like, if there are 3 players that we could never even imagine getting, right, it'd be Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and Victor Wembanyama. Not just because of their insane value, but also just because there is 0 chance those 3 teams would trade us those 3 players. because it's us.
I don't
right?
want
Like, even if they were on the market, there is 0 chance that those players would ever get traded here.
All right, next.
The next one, 1988. James Worthy. The Lakers beat the Pistons in 7 games. He averaged 22, 7.4, and 4.4, and won Finals MVP. James Worthy.
No disrespect to James Worthy. That team was stacked. No.
Yeah. Fair enough. Number 3. 1983, Moses Malone averaged 25.8, 18, and 2. Swept the Lakers.
I'm only getting 5 players to keep 3.
No, you're getting 8 players to keep 3. Cutting 5.
No, I am not. I'm not keeping Moses.
Like I said, that in 1982, when the Sixers lost to the Lakers, that was like their fourth appearance in like 6 years since joining the NBA from the ABA.
No.
This year was the time they finally won it. Moses Malone won Finals MVP, averaged 25.8, 18, and 2 to sweep the Lakers, which is a phenomenal performance. But I agree, you probably have to cut him considering the guys that could be
Yeah.
on this list. And you already kept one with Jokic. Are there particular performances you think you're holding out for right now?
Obviously a KD performance would be up there. Obviously, um, potentially Kobe or Shaq could be on there. Depending on the series, maybe even LeBron, I suppose, although that would be painful. Um, a Kawhi finals is, especially with the Raptors, would be on my mind a little bit.
Okay,
So
fair enough. The next one, phenomenal finals performance. 2006, Dwayne Wade, specifically in the finals, averaged 34.7, 7.8, and 3.8. Beat the Mavs in 6 games. That year, Shaquille O'Neal was the runner-up to the MVP in the regular season, but in the finals, like I said, Dwayne Wade averaged 34.7, 7.8, and 3.8. Beat the Mavs in 6 games in his third season in the league. Won Finals MVP.
how many slots? I have 2 slots left, but
You
how
got 2
many?
left to keep, and including Dwayne Wade, 5 names.
I can't do it.
Can't keep
No
it.
disrespect, no disrespect to D Wade, but he's got to go.
That's fair. It's fair. It's a tough cut. It's a brutally tough cut. Phenomenal
It
final
is.
series.
That was a great series for
That
him. Personally.
and that is
In fact, that
obviously,
was obviously his best series he ever
yeah. And I
had.
was gonna say obviously like he won 2 more titles after that, but not as the best player. And that was the pinnacle moment of his entire
Well,
career.
in fairness, on that team, he wasn't the best player either. He was in that series.
I would say that this was the coming out party for him to be the best player in the team. I mean, he was like one of the like 5 or 6 best players in the league in like the 2008 2009 seasons. Like
I
he
know,
was
but he was playing with one of the most
stupid good
dominant guys in history. So
at the like end of his prime slash pushing out of it. But agreed. Like that was Shaq's last great year. Like because like I said, he was second in MVP
well,
voting that season
there
behind Steve
he's
Nash.
in.
All right, the next one, 1992. Michael Jordan gets his second ring, beats the Blazers in 6 games. You've got the Shrug game, and in that series, he averaged 35.8, 4.8, and 6.5.
You already know the answer to this.
We're keeping Michael Jordan.
Of course,
I think that's a
I'm
good
never,
answer.
I'm never not keeping Michael Jordan.
I think keeping one of the 2 best players of all time is a good answer. I would say
Yeah,
so.
I'm never not doing that.
I think that's a good answer. So far, you've kept Nikola Jokic and Michael Jordan. You've got 3 names left. 1978. Wes Unseld beat the Sonics in 7 and averaged 9 points, 11.7 rebounds, and 3.9 assists.
It was the MVP.
His defense was dominant.
No, no. Okay, Gobert. No,
I mean, it was effectively if the Wolves had won the series, or had won the finals, and Anthony Edwards extremely struggled, and it was just dominant defense by Rudy Gobert that won Finals MVP. You're right. That would be what it would be. Yeah.
yeah, no.
Agreed. That's definitely the easiest cut on the list. No disrespect to Wes Unseld. But that is the easiest cut on
No,
the
I mean, no
list.
disrespect. I don't even know who that dude is.
You don't know who Wes Unseld is?
No.
He's the only player in NBA history to win MVP as a rookie. Really? All
No,
right.
no idea.
You're gonna get flamed whenever I post this as a short that you don't know who Wes
That's
Unseld
fine.
is.
I don't care. I bet most people don't.
I would say that most people that would find our content randomly know who Wes Unseld is.
Maybe. Well, good for them.
The next one. Keep in mind, you've got two more. 2 more for one spot. One keep, one cut. 1972, Wilt Chamberlain finally gets his ring with the Lakers. Beat the Knicks in 5. Averaged 19.4, 23.2, and 2.6 alongside Jerry West to beat the Knicks in 5 games to win his ring. So walk me through this. Just random thoughts as you're thinking about whether or not you keep this or cut this. How many guys
Look, there's no
would
question.
you place ahead of Wilt Chamberlain when you're thinking whether or not you're going to keep him or cut him?
So I'm keeping in mind a couple of things first.
Okay.
I'm very much of the Michael Jordan school of thought when he comes to ranking players historically. right? And this is another thing that makes him different than LeBron, where LeBron says, "Yeah, I'm probably the GOAT." Michael says, "I don't think that's fair. All of these times are different, right? Like I can't compare myself. It's disrespectful to the guys before me, and it's disrespectful to the guys that are going to play after me, right?" Michael's never been a GOAT guy. There's no denying the dominance of Wilt Chamberlain when he played. And at the time, he was also a physical specimen that is
Well,
much
even
more
now,
common.
he would be a physical specimen now, but I understand what you're saying.
But there are guys that could size up with him today, right?
I mean, he was like 7'2" with like a 40-inch vertical, but yeah, sure.
I get it. He was a freak, but back then he was like playing with like 6'2" guys all over the place.
I mean,
He could jump
in
over them.
fairness, so the league was a lot smaller, right? Like there were only like
Yeah, of
11
course.
teams at the time in
Yeah.
most of his prime.
So it's
However,
not.
the average height was only like half to 3/4 of a foot less than it is now.
That seems crazy because the average population height was so much shorter. When you
But
start
the
going,
average NBA player height is not that much less. It's just that there were a lot less players, and so there altogether was probably a little bit
I
less
also think they
talent.
were a
But
lot less athletic. But
yes,
neither here
yes,
nor there. So I don't I don't begrudge or deny Wilt Chamberlain's place in history. The things
sure,
that he did was stupid,
right,
even in a smaller league, right? It's even different than what Russell did because Russell played before free agency. He played with the same guys for a decade, and there was 9 teams in the league,
right.
right? Um, so I think Wilt was a much better player than Russell. Just my personal opinion, right? And but even in 11 games or 11, I think he would be a dominant player today. So that is different, right? Um, so it feels disrespectful, but like if Kawhi pops up next or Curry pops up or a version of Kobe pops up, I'm going to wish I had picked them. And I already got a center.
Sure.
I'm going to cut him.
Okay. All right.
Taking a big chance here because it could be a stupid one.
So when I read off
I don't
this
like.
last one,
I don't feel good about it.
if it's 2015 Andre Iguodala, how are you going to
You
feel?
know, it is dumb then. Obviously,
All
you're
right.
taking Will. That should have been Curry's.
It should have been. Agreed. Agreed. We're never going to disagree on that. Like, it definitely should
Yeah,
have been Steph's. Like,
yeah,
yes, LeBron averaged a little bit less efficient, almost triple-double. And yes, that
right.
was valuable, ultimately, that slight dip in efficiency for their ring. But Steph was still averaging like 29 points a game, stupid efficiency. Like, it was
Yeah,
Steph's. He got robbed.
that should have been Steph's for sure. I never will understand how that happened because Steph's is
Fortunate.
beloved.
Right.
So it's not like there was a grudge against him, right? It wasn't like you were voting for Green or some shit.
Right. Right.
But anyway,
So, in the keep 3, cut 5, you cut 88 James Worthy. You cut 1983 Moses Malone. You very toughly cut 2006 Dwayne Wade, which I think, depending on how this one looks, it's actually Dwayne Wade that you're scared about, not Wilt.
I mean, Will
1978,
not players of all time.
sure. 1978, Wes Unseld. And you cut 1972, Wilt Chamberlain. You kept the number 1, 2023, Nikola Jokic. You kept 1982, Michael Jordan. And you kept the single most impressively dominant Finals MVP in the history of the sport, promise you completely randomly generated, 2016 LeBron James, averaging 29.7, 11.3, and 8.9, beat the Warriors in 7, only 3-1 comeback in the history of the sport, and is the only player in the history of the sport to lead both teams in all 5 major categories in the finals: points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks.
I can live with that.
Live with it. I mean, you got probably that one's definitely the single most dominant Finals MVP in the history of the sport, right? And then you probably got, and then you also got a Michael Jordan Finals MVP, which you can't go wrong with, and then a Nikola Jokic. And Nikola Jokic, just based on opponent, is probably the weakest one, but based on numbers, you can't really argue it.
I mean, defensively, the other 2 players in their prime were.
Yeah, obviously.
There's no comparing him.
Some people are going to want to complain about Nikola Jokic. I think specifically against 06 Wade.
I mean, but
But
the
again,
problem is, point he was on a three season MVP run
yeah, no,
in
yeah,
the
he's
title.
phenomenal.
Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I love D Wade as a player.
yeah,
I think he's a somewhat underrated in history. Um, and like I always just say, I mean, he won a title before LeBron came to town, right?
sure,
It wasn't new to him. And that was a dominant performance in 2006. So, it's not a knock on Wade. It wasn't a knock on Chamberlain. It is what it
yeah.
is.
All right, that's all we got for today. I don't know if next season I will be more terrified of the San Antonio Spurs if they get it done this year, or if they somehow manage to lose and then come back with a bigger chip on their shoulder next season. I don't
I
know whether
hope
I'd be
they
more
lose.
terrified of them. I
I
hope
hope
they
they
lose,
lose.
but I do not know
I
whether I'd
think
be
they're
more
winning in
terrified.
4,
I don't
but they're
know whether I'd
winning.
be more terrified of them next season if they win it this year, or if they come back with a bigger chip because they
You just
lost.
never know what
But
that impact has on you losing. So
I've never been to a Knicks game, so I don't have a Knicks hat, but I'm rocking the Kings hat for today because shout out Mike Brown, the head coach of the New York Knicks, who was in Sacramento beforehand. So shout out to Bro.
we
Shout out
saw
to the
the Nuggets.
Knicks.
We saw the
Go
Nuggets
Knicks.
play, and we stayed in the Nuggets hotel, the Hyatt Regency, Sacramento.
Yep,
And Jokic completely ignored you when you tried to get his
that is
signature.
true, but I love Nikola Jokic, so shout out. As a basketball fan, not as a Thunder fan. Shout out Nikola Jokic.
All right.
I was a sad boy that day. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
But that was a long time ago.
And
So
we went down to
we're
Golden
okay.
One, which is the best NBA arena we've been into.
That's all we got for this week. Tune in next week. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Shout out all the socials. Go follow them. We're gonna have some exciting stuff coming up soon as we start to get into the countdown to the NFL season, previewing that here sooner than later. Probably next month and a half or so, we'll start getting into that kind of stuff. It's right around the corner. It's a long time away, and it's draining on, but it's also right around the corner. So we'll get there. We're excited for that. And then, just thanks for watching. Suck it, Wemby. Best player in the world. Go Knicks.
Go
We out.
Knicks.
Peace.
Knickerbocker. Although I'm also here for a Knicks fans meltdown. But
Oh, yeah, that's true too. But shout out. Peace. We out.
Peace. Jimby.